Before China had huge stone walls and was broken about 15 billion times, there were tribe-like colonies scattered all across East Asia. One day, a man known for being the father of Chinese culture, known as Huang Ti, ruled a region of Shandong from around 2697 to 2597 BCE. Huang Ti would set the foundation of culture and government that would be used many years later, again and again, by their successor, Huang Ti's grandson. His name was Shuang. He would be one of the 5 famous emperors who founded the Xia tribe, which in turn would later become the first dynasty in Chinese culture, founded by an emperor named Emperor Yao, creating the Xia dynasty. Yao would have a problem with his dynasty, a big one: flooding. The flooding of the Yellow River would destroy many of his people's settlements and kill the many people that resided in them. Thus, he had to do something about it. Yao ordered a man known as a demigod to many named Gun — no, he didn't invent the gun — to stop the flooding. After 9 years of failure, his fate is sadly unknown. Yao then ordered his son Yu, who would later be known as Yu the Great, to stop the flooding. By the time Yu had started his quest to stop it, a new emperor had been put in. That emperor was Yu Shun, son of Emperor Yao. Yu the Great had used the help of the neighboring tribes, unlike his father, to build canals to stop flooding. Pleased with his work, Yu Shun put Yu the Great in charge of his army to destroy a rival tribe known as the San Miao. Yu the Great had succeeded in this task, and this convinced Yu Shun to turn Yu the Great into the heir to the throne. Yu was a man so influential that people all across the Middle Kingdoms would recognize him as the first real leader of all Chinese people. One of the biggest issues that corrupted our knowledge of the Xia dynasty was the fact that the knowledge of the dynasty was burned and destroyed by the Shang after they had conquered them. In fact, up until the mid-20th century, it was thought to be a myth. Most of what we know is based off of legend, and very little is based on archaeological studies. The only real evidence were the stories written by a man named Sima Qian, also known as the Grand Historian. China had plans to dig for finds to prove the Xia had existed, but was delayed by China having other problems more important than excavation of burial sites, buried cities, and towns. The Grand Historian recorded all of his information about the Xia over 1,400 years after it ended. So much for being great. What we do know is that the Xia dynasty ruled from around 2070 to 1600 BCE, and it set precedent for a long line of 17 rulers, and eventually a set of dynasties. For many years, slowly declining in power, Yu the Great had died. China is undoubtedly very concerned about their part in history, especially in ancient history. Legend states that the Xia dynasty was the first to irrigate, cast bronze, have a central form of government, and produce a strong army. This is a very important stepping stone in China's history, so it's understandable why they'd want to search for these relics. The Shang dynasty were said to have numerous cultural advances, such as industrialized bronze casting, a calendar system, religious rituals, and writing under the influence of the first king Tang. Tang was said to have been a great king because he worked on his country rather than for his own pleasure and luxury. He had defeated the Veil king of the Xia dynasty, sending him into exile. He was also known to have defeated Ji, the last emperor of the Xia dynasty, in a legendary battle in a thunderstorm, and in other circumstances that just wouldn't happen. Moving on, the Shang dynasty was also known for their works of art. They made many things such as pots and vases. These works of art were usually made out of jade, which is now something China is known for. Also, they developed ancestor worship, and also the link between the people and the king and the gods. This was the basis for the religion known as Taoism. They had also started construction on the Great Wall of China. Although not the size it was today, it would lay the foundation of what it would become. The Shang had probably about 13.5 million people and was centered around the North China Plains and north into modern Hebei provinces, but population growth led to multiple migrations to Yin, Anyang Hanan, in the 14th century. They had a similar fate to the Xia, starting with a kind and great emperor, and after 32 emperors making things worse for the people, they slowly lost power and were taken over by the Zhou dynasty, looking to unite his people just as King Tang of Shang was to the Xia. Both the Xia and Shang were ahead of their time with their building, agriculture, and use of bronze with weapons and vessels. But most historians would agree that the lack of remorse for the people would be their downfall. And to add a bit of irony, the very first dynasty would make the circle that happens to the rise and fall of dynasties that would carry on without them even realizing.